And welcome back to another episode of Pokemon Knowledge. Yeah, so what I wrote in the thumbnail is going to be a little bit about the topic of this video. Maybe it's not as divisive as some people think, but the drama's here to stay. What do I mean by that? It's just a lot of the conversations that are had recently in this hobby, depending on how you take them, they're drama-filled. And I've just learned something, especially recently, with like the whole CGC debacle. I'm going to say two things to start this video. The first thing I'm going to say is everything I say in this video and every video I've ever made are always 100% my opinion. The second thing I've always found out is no matter what stance you might have in this hobby, there'll be somebody with a complete opposite stance. And one of the things about the CGC like drama that's happened is I got to actually witness something snowball really quick, because I think sometimes when you're making videos or you're talking about things, a lot of people instantly think you have an agenda. And one of the big things that happened with the CGC resealed slabs is before I made any of those videos trying to reseal those slabs, I never thought CGC slabs were resealable. Everybody keeps going back to, yeah, you could open up the old slabs. Yeah, I knew about that a long time ago, but I thought that that problem was fixed for forever, pretty much, like before I started grading cards. So I watched as like a little experiment. Shout out to Katie. Katie was the one that mentioned it in a live. It was one of the most organic things that I've ever done on this channel. It was literally, she mentioned the CGC comic book drama. I know recently the day of that video was Reserved Investments made a video talking about the CGC comic book issue. I just hadn't got around to watching that video yet, so I wasn't sure like what the drama was. And then chat mentioned that you could open up CGC slabs with a heat gun. So I didn't really think too much of it. And then you could see real time at the end of one of those lives, I had a heat gun right next to me. I started heating up that slab, and then I was like, okay, this slab is becoming really pliable. I took a screwdriver, it pushed right through. Obviously, it was the first time I ever even attempted it, and you watched me do it real time, and I melted the slab, but it got the wheels in my brain like turning, and I was like, well, I didn't even know that this was a possibility where you could heat up a slab and even have that plastic become malleable. So then I started going down the rabbit hole of, well, if I could do it and shove the screwdriver right through it, well, what would happen if I used multiple different steps to separate that slab while applying heat, while applying other things? Would it be possible for me to separate that slab? And I think the answer for me was a resounding yes. Yes, I could do that. Now, this is the caveat. So I thought it all happened organically. It was just like, okay, something happened in a live. I tried it out. Let me go and experience and like try it out and like actually see if I can do it. I found a lot of people just real quickly like latched onto it. And one of the things that I found out more than anything else is how divisive people really are. I have my biases towards CGC. If you do not know that, and maybe you're new to this channel, I just recommend you type it in Poke Knowledge and CGC. I have 20 plus videos where I bash CGC because I think CGC is a bad company and arguably one of the worst companies to ever exist, way outside of trading cards and Pokemon, just in general. One of the worst companies that I've ever personally, I should use the caveat, personally ever came across, just, and all because of their customer service, all because of their business ethics, all because of the way that they like have really hurt customers. These are personal biases. People, for whatever reason, think I don't say that. I can't be any more transparent with people. I do not like CGC. Mark it down, take it to your grave, but yet people will tell me all the time, constantly, oh, PK just always bashes CGC, never bashes PSA, but I do bash PSA all the time. And one of the things I found really, really interesting about those videos was anytime somebody would talk about CGC in my comment section, I would like, in the videos, I cracked open a PSA slab. I wasn't able to do it. I was able to separate the slab. And to be honest with you, I still haven't been able to find the person out there who was also able to, like, recreate what I've done, which is just take a PSA slab and perfectly separate them. Like, I don't really even hear people, like, everybody wanted to downplay what I was doing with those slabs. Yes, I got the frosting on these PSA slabs when I talked about that, but I still perfectly opened a slab. I've yet to see the other person do this. And then the same thing with Beckett. I also was able to perfectly open up a Beckett slab. Again, perfect. I should reuse my word. I was able to cleanly open up a slab, but I wasn't able to, like, not have the frosting issues. And I've yet to find the person who could even do that. Like, do the perfect separation of the Beckett slab where there's no damage to the actual slab, with the exception of the frosting. You remove this frosting, which I can't figure out how to do, but if you could remove that frosting, in theory, you could clean open a Beckett slab. I was not able to do that. But I found a lot of people in the comment section just constantly, when I was making videos about CGC, just kept talking about PSA. There's a weird thing going on where if you talk about one thing, it cannot be separate from another. When you talk poorly upon CGC, even if that video and the entire purpose of that video is to show that you are able to perfectly separate a CGC slab and talk about the potentials of those slabs being resealed. Real quick, I want to hop into the chat. I see Son of a Mewtwo, appreciate the super chat, and Bear C Collects is now a member. So, real quick, before I keep going on my tangent, I have memberships on this channel. I had a $2.99 tier. As of, like, right before this video, I got rid of that $2.99 tier. So if anybody did have that tier, you will be refunded for your memberships. And the reason why is I'm just going to have the 99-cent tier. I did not know when I created memberships that if you were to gift memberships on this channel, it would automatically go to the highest tier, meaning I had a $2.99 tier. The cheapest tier you could gift was $2.99. I don't want that. I wanted people to be able to gift 99 cents. So it might take a little while. So give it time. Don't gift any memberships until you only see that 99-cent tier. And for anybody that was supporting me at that $2.99 tier, I appreciate it. And if you get a refund and you see that your membership is canceled, that's a reason why. It's nothing personal. If, like, anybody gets their memberships canceled, then you can just get back in cheaper. Save yourself, you know, $2 by going 99 cents. But anyways, back to what I was saying was, like, just the same way as people never even were like, wow, PK was able to separate slabs. I've never seen anybody actually do this. And I haven't seen anybody do this. So if anybody out there has been able to at least even recreate what I've done here, just opening up a Beckett slab, separating it perfectly, and then only having the frosting issues, I would like to see if somebody else was able to do that, because I was able to do it with only 2 slabs. It only took me 2 attempts. This was my second attempt. My third attempt, I never even attempted this slab because I felt I couldn't do it. Now, this is where my biases came in, and this is things I want to talk about. Just because I was not able to attempt to cleanly separate this slab, while I think personally you cannot do it, it does not mean it's impossible. And the reason why I say that is because so many people would watch other people try to, like, separate a CGC slab. They only would attempt, like, one way or 2 ways, and then if they weren't able to do it, people said, well, there you go. This person tried to open up 2 CGC slabs and they failed. Because they feel that 2 means it's impossible, nobody can do it. And that's not the case. So I was able to do it. The same way as this Beckett slab, I've only attempted 2 tries. Just because I attempted 2 tries and I've given up and I don't think I could personally do it, if somebody comes out there and goes, hey PK, you tried it 2 times, well, guess what? I had 50 slabs and I attempted to crack this thing 50 times, and I found it out on attempt number 49. I'm not going to just discredit that because I attempted 2 times. I did find that happen recently. Like, A lot of people only attempt very, very small amounts, and then they just use that as, well, that's the gospel. You cannot do it. And I don't know. I didn't love that. I didn't love how like quick people were, and like I spent a lot of time to get that CGC slab open. It took a lot of effort. Like I went through all my cheap CGC slabs. They were the old slabs, and then I didn't have any of the new ones. And I had to reach out to one of my friends in the hobby. Shout out to Dan Catch'em Collectibles. Dan was nice enough to send me some of the newer slabs. On the most recent PWCC auction, I bought out all the cheap slabs. So yes, if on the last PWCC auction you see a CGC new cert 3.5 Weedle, yes, unlimited Weedle and 3.5, that is not a fake sale. It did sell on PWCC. And you're looking at the buyer of that bad boy. I bought the cheapest $5, but with buyer's premium ended up being $6. But I bought all the cheapest slabs on on PWCC, trying to just work on my craft now, trying to get better. So I feel like I got it down pretty well, but I want to see if I could like streamline it, take less time, and see if that's something that could potentially be done on like a higher level. Because if it could be done on a higher level, that means that somebody might have already like cracked that code themselves and they're already doing it. And I can't say definitively if somebody has or hasn't unless I try a little bit more. So that's what I'm going to do with those. But it goes back to like the whole drama thing. And even when I just found it very hard that people are not able to separate themselves, because you could go in the comment section of those CGC videos and just go look at how many people says they talk about PSA. Even though the video was about CGC, or any time, people just instantly start to talk about PSA. They just, and I don't know why that is. I'll give you a good example. One of the big comments I got on my CGC videos was, people said to me, they said, PK, why don't you ever talk about the issues with PSA? You're only ever talking about the issues with CGC. Literally that week, like when somebody wrote that comment, it was like 2 days before. I literally had a live. And if you're not new to this channel and you're subscribed to this channel, maybe you'll remember me saying this, and you can go back to my video last week. I was talking about Zao, the guy who was like taking real PSA certs, real cards, and we're putting them into the slabs. He put the real label with the real, like a lower graded copy of the card, and then in fake slabs. And I couldn't remember the guy's name. And Rattle was in the live chat at the time. And Rattle made a huge video talking about Zao. And I talked about those fake PSA slabs. They are fake slabs with real cards with real labels. So it gets a little tricky. But the slab itself is not a PSA slab. Like this PSA slab has this little teeny PSA like you could touch in the corner. And then it has these 3 grooves here, and like how these are frosted and the ones Zao was making didn't. And then I talked about that in the live. And not only that, Rattle was in the live chat. I had Rattle link his video talking about Zao, about those fake slabs. So literally people were in my comments saying, PK, why don't you talk about the fake PSA slabs that exist? And literally, like 1 or 2 videos before, I went on a whole tangent talking about Zao. And not only did I go on a tangent, I talked about Rattle's video. And not only did I go on a tangent talking about Rattle's video, I had him link his video in the live chat. So it just, I don't understand why people like think that you can't just ever talk about anything like exclusively. My videos talking about resealed slabs was because I felt I could reseal CGC slabs. I did not feel I could reseal PSA slabs. I did not feel I could reseal a Beckett slab. So, but I just don't understand why people just constantly, they gotta always, they just want to like keep pushing the narrative or whatever like they're trying to do. I am very critical on PSA, and I've been critical in the past. Now, what is the truth? I grade my cards with PSA, yes, because I hate CGC. I literally just told you early in this video, I'm not going to support a grading company that is the most god-awful worst company that ever existed in this hobby. I'm not going to support that company. So I go with PSA. And I, again, have my biases. I've had the CEO of PSA on because I like Nat Turner, because I think collectors picking up PSA has been a huge net positive for PSA. But I also will never sit here and tell you that there are no issues with PSA. PSA has their issues. What I'm hoping is that PSA can fix those issues. And I personally think Nat Turner was the person to help start to lead them in like the right direction. And that is not going to be an overnight switch. You know, one of the things Nat did when he inherited PSA was when he inherited PSA, he inherited that crazy backlog of millions of cards. And I talked to him about it on the live. I asked him, I said, what is it, a hard decision to just shut down all tiers and stop accepting cards? I'm like, I can only imagine you're a big investment group who collectors who purchase PSA. That must have been a tough decision to no longer take in money, because you could have just kept taking in cards. And what Nat told me on that interview, and you could go back and watch it, and he goes, no, that was actually the easiest decision we ever made. So, because he knew that the only way to stop that bleeding, because and it was as simple as numbers games. If you get more submissions per day than you can grade, turnaround times are going to go up. It's that simple. He saw that it was impossible, and he didn't care that they weren't going to make as much money because they're going to shut off that faucet. And then it's going to create all this competition and stuff. It didn't matter. They needed to know that they couldn't have turnaround times of a year or two. And that was the right decision. I looked at it as he's going to be a money's guy, but he wasn't a money guy. He was a company guy, like make the company work. And, what was the right decision? And one of the things one of the big news topics that have been happening recently is PSA was damaging some people's cards. And there were some good videos that a lot of people put out there. And again, Rattle made a great video just a month ago. And literally the title of Rattle's video was, this is how to get your money back if PSA damages your cards, or something along those lines. And it was, that was like the title. It was like, if PSA damages your cards, this is how you get your money back. And that video was all about Swolepoke. Swolepoke opened up a Versus Series pack, ended up pulling the Karen's Umbreon. That Karen's Umbreon was real minty. Rattle made the video, he sent it to PSA, ended up getting damage at PSA. Swolepoke had to fight it tooth and nail, and then ended up getting his money back. They only ended up paying him out for the price of a 9 because he got a lower grade, but it was a great video. A lot of research went into that. Reached out to Swolepoke. Pulling all these old video clips. He was able to pull the clip of Swolepoke opening the card. He was able to pull all the photos and images of the PSA stock photos, what the card looked like when it came back, all the customer service back and forth between Swolepoke and PSA. So, Rattle made a great video. I don't feel like I could add any, more information than what Rattle did. I hope that makes sense. If I were to make a video talking about that, all I would do would literally parrot Rattle's points. Every single research Rattle did, every single thing that he put the time into doing it, I would just parrot everything he said. And I'm going to be very, very truthful to you. If you are subscribed to this channel and you are not subscribed to Rattle's channel, so you are not watching Rattle's videos, I'm going to be honest with you, that's on you. That is not on me at this point. If there's anybody who I talk about a lot of people. There's a handful of people I talk about more than anything else. I quote their videos. I talk about them. I do all this stuff. If you are not subscribed to Rattle, it is not on me to tell you he made a video. Go subscribe to him if that's the problem. So I just don't feel that I have I don't know what I could add to the conversation of PSA damaging cards, because Rattle made the video. Rattle did a good video of it. Other people had their cards damaged too. That you can just type into your YouTube search engine and just type in PSA damaging cards, and there's all these videos that come up. I never had my cards damaged by them, so I don't feel like I have anything to add to that conversation. But I just thought it was very weird how people get so defensive. If you talk anything negative about CGC, even if the video is talk about how CGC slabs are resealed, they will talk about PSA nonstop. And I don't want to kick shade at Josh the Green Shiz. Josh, I just got to make sure I know the exact length of this video. So, Josh, love him. Good friend of mine. I know him in person. I've met his wife. She's a freaking awesome lady. Josh is a great dude. Josh made a video today. Just said CGC is under the gun. And all he did, and it wasn't a long video. The video was only 12 minutes and 34 seconds long. So, CGC under the gun, you would think that the topic of that video would be all the issues that CGC are going through right now, whether it's, you know, the Illustrator Pikachu, the slab issues and stuff. I love Josh. This isn't a hit at him, but it was a 12.5-minute long video. I went and searched, like, the transcript. He used the word PSA. How many times do you think he used the word PSA in a 12.5-minute video? How many times? So, let's just say he used it once every minute. We'll average up. That would be 13 times he used the word PSA in a 12.5-minute video if he used it 1 per minute. It wasn't 13 times. It wasn't 26 times. It wasn't 39 times. He said the word PSA 50 times in that 12.5-minute video. Said the word PSA 50 times. That was supposed to be a video talking about, like, the issues going on with CGC. I find it that people they're not able to separate and, like, constantly do the compare and contrast between the companies. And it's like, if you talk about one, it's just, well, anytime CGC's does something bad, PSA's done something bad in the past. Like, and I have found this to be the truth, too, is when you make a video just talking about PSA, people don't always feel in the comment section they have to talk about CGC the whole time, where when PSA does something bad, they're like, well, now we got to go to the comment section and say, well, what about all the things that CGC have done wrong? And it's the same way as you could go on my CGC videos and look for anybody mentioning Beckett. Nobody mentions Beckett. Same thing when you go on a CGC video, nobody mentions Beckett. When you go on a PSA video, nobody mentions the Beckett. So it's just like, why do anytime somebody defends anytime somebody defends CGC, they instantly just have to always bring PSA into the conversation? Now, I think on the broad, like, topic, super, super important. And this is where I'm going to lose people, because they're not going to hear this. It's super important on the, like, the large, like, overall arching conversation. But if you are just constantly ignoring the negatives a company does just because you're now comparing the faults, when I say PSA was damaging cards, they were. Rattle made a good video on it. Go watch it. When I talked about the Zao and the fake slabs, that is a huge issue. And in fact, when that whole stuff happened, I actually did have multiple lives where I mentioned the whole Zao fake slab thing. So, now, if you're new to this channel, maybe you never heard me mention the fake slabs, but I have talked about it. But I just can't add more information than what Rattle, did all the research. When you talk about the fake PSA slabs, there's probably a lot of people out there know that fake PSA slabs exist. They probably don't know what the person's name is. They probably don't know his other business dealings outside of Pokemon. The fact that he was a high-end art collector. The fact that this guy Zao shafted a bunch of these high-end art galleries. Bought a bunch of expensive artworks. Didn't pay. How Zao's family has now, like, more or less shunned him because the guy Zao has brought shame upon his, like, entire house. Like, something straight out of Game of Thrones. Like, the dude has brought shame upon his entire house. And the fact that we found a lot of, like, I think that's the same guy. I hope I'm not, like, confusing the different people, but I could be thinking the guy that was doing the booster boxes. But either way, like, dude, Rattle makes these videos, so I can't add any more to that. PTCG Vlogs, welcome to the channel, man. I appreciate the support. So, that's one of the things I want to talk about. And then, it's funny, too, is recently, like, the CGC Illustrator 10 that was just recently graded with CGC. in the comment of that video is all people were talking about was saying how there's a lot of PSA 10s that exist that have like whitening issues and that maybe don't deserve a 10. I just don't understand that. I don't know if anybody is. Are there any PSA deniers out there that's saying there are not weak PSA 10s and 10s that probably shouldn't exist in 10s? I've yet to find that person. I'm going to tell you from the absolute bottom of my heart, right hand to God, I agree with that statement. There are some PSA 10s that exist that don't deserve to be 10s. But that's the weird thing. I don't feel like anybody is saying that is a lie. What I think people were saying was this CGC 10, and a lot of the things we talk about with the PSA week 10s is we talk about the fact that maybe that grader missed something. Maybe it was an old cert label where maybe, like people say grading standards were a little less on certain timelines and all this stuff. And like, that's the things we talk about. The thing about that CGC label was that card was graded potentially by their head grader or, CEO. At least that CEO took that card in his hand and handed it off to John, Pokemon Radar, and was like, here's your grade. It's got a couple issues to it. Even though that card, in nobody's really opinion, not just my opinion, I want to say nobody's opinion, was that card a CGC 10. But yeah, it got a 10. And then it brought up the issues of like, all the things that I've brought up in the past. And I know I will beat this horse to death, but one of the things I don't like about CGC is that if me and you grade cards, we will never be able to talk to that grader because one of the big things about CGC is that anonymity factor, meaning the grader's not going to know whose cards they're grading. But anytime it's a high dollar card, anytime it's a big card, anytime it's an influencer, I made an entire video one time just shitting on Matt Quinn because he graded Chumley's cards, opened up a base set, or unlimited jungle booster box, sat in the same room, and I said that that anonymity is absolute BS at CGC. While that's their rules, in reality, in practicality, you might as well throw it out the window because if you're special enough, if they care about you, the head grader at CGC is going to sit next to you while you open up that jungle unlimited booster box if you matter enough. And I never like that. To my knowledge, I've never heard of PSA doing that. Now, I can't say with a definitive, but if that is the case, I would like somebody to bring it to my attention where the head grader of PSA sat at the same table as one of their submittees or somebody that submitted cards and gave them the 10. And you look at a card like the 1 of 1 Lord of the Rings card. A lot of people said that Lord of the Rings card deserved a 10 no matter what. Didn't matter if there was issues with the card. It should have been a 10 because it's a 1 of 1, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, no. At the end of the day, while we would like to see that card be a 10, it didn't deserve a 10. So because it did not deserve a 10, it's not going to get that grade. That Magic the Gathering 1 of 1 card was a 9, so it got a 9. It didn't get the grade people felt it deserved. It got the grade that it actually deserved because of condition. And you could have made the argument of if it hit anything less than a 10, maybe just grade it authentic because it's a 1 of 1 Magic the Gathering ring card and then let everybody just speculate what it would have been. But then people would have started to say, oh, it must have had like a dent and it was probably a 6 or a 7, and then people would just go with it either way. But it just goes back to like this, and like that's the drama, and I'm fine with talking about CGC, but I don't want to talk about CGC every day. So I'm making this video because I'm going to probably stop talking about CGC for a little while. Because I'm going to work on my slabs in the background. Like, I did it publicly. Now I'm going to go and I'm not going to start cracking these slabs off screen. And I'm going to work on the craft until I get these things just absolutely immaculately perfect. And just do it to the best of my ability to prove to myself. And then when the time comes, if people don't believe me, then we'll whip them out. And then we'll just show you guys. Like, I just find that and that goes to the title now of this video. The drama's here to stay. And it's the same thing with that CGC 10 illustrator. Like, there was that reverse hollow Crystal Guardian Zard that went viral. Obviously, that card deserved a 1, got a 10. PSA, what did they do? Instantly deactivated the cert because PSA fucked up. And then you had the people, and then Rattle made the video where people were trying to, like, more or less fraud the system, because the PSA does have that guarantee, which means if your card is overgraded, they're going to give you that financial guarantee, that PSA. That's one of the reasons, like, when PSA, this is one of the things they say, quote unquote, don't quote me on this, because this is a whole argument in itself of, like, just trying to do this cross, like, resubmitting thing, and, like, saying, this card is not a 10, pay me out the difference, because I can't sell this card. But that was one of those examples where that card was definitely not a 10, deserved probably a 1, and it was probably a typo error, whoever was putting the card into the system, whoever printed out the labels. I don't know, from the point where the grader gives it a grade to the point where it gets inputted into the PSA system till it generates the, the label and everything. I don't know if it's just as simple as they selected a 10, selected a 1. I don't know, selected a 10 instead of a 1. I don't know enough about, like, the back end of that, but I'm sure it was just as simple as they put in the wrong thing. Now, it brings up that huge issue, and shout out to Opossum Bud. Opossum Bud talked about this too, where, if you do have quality controls, which PSA, they have like 8 stages. Stage 1 is accepted until eventually you get to that QA1s. I think they actually changed up their names of their steps, but, like, one of them was the QA2, and so QA2 was they're like rechecking the slab and the holder and the grades and making sure that the card is in the right slab, it's got the right grade, and blah 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 blah. So there was a huge, like, failure that happened there, because anyone who knows anything about Pokemon, I'm gonna go one step further. Anybody who doesn't know anything about Pokemon could have looked at that Crystal Guardian Zard and been like, this thing is not a 10. This is a 1. Let's send this back and let's figure out what happened. And they probably would have only had to go back a couple steps to be like, oh, shoot, this was a 1. We accidentally put a 10 label on. Good job on QA check 2 catching that. The scary thing is that was never caught. So, like, that's a big deal. But it goes back to, I'm going to keep saying it. It goes back to the title of this video. Is the drama is here to stay. And at this point, all this stuff isn't going anywhere. Like, I think people love this stuff. I think that at the end of the day, the reality is just people love that this drama exists, that this stuff happens, that they can talk about, all the issues that are happening, whether it's CGC or Beckett or PSA or whatever crazy hype is going on, Like, we have Temporal Forces, the new set. I don't even know if I'm going to get around to talking about Temporal Forces today, which is the newest Pokemon set, because I just feel like I haven't made a video in a couple weeks because I wasn't really feeling good the last couple days, so I just took a couple, days off to just feel better. But I'm like, there's so much stuff comes out at one time. It's like almost impossible to even keep up with it, and that's why I'm happy we got people like, Rattle and Opossum. And, one of the things that I don't like too is people don't like the drama. But the people who don't like the drama, I think, secretly, are the ones that love the drama the most, because they're the ones that are always going to be like, what is it, the silent, or it's the vocal minority. So I think that the people that don't like the drama are, in a lot of times, they're the vocal minority. So they're a small subset of the people in this hobby, but they're the ones that, like, talk the most shit. And, even on things that are good things, depending on how you look at it. Like, I'll give you an example. And more drama. It's the title of this video. Sorry if you guys don't like the drama. I just got to get all this stuff out because I want to move on. I want to move on from all this. I'm not going to talk about CGC. I'm not saying I'm never going to talk about CGC ever again. And hell, I'm going to not lie. I might even talk about CGC on my next video if, like, something happens where I have to talk about them. But I just want to move on from this for a while, and I'm going to do all my stuff. But another, like, drama thing is, it's actually a good thing now, but one of the things is the pre-release Raichu. It's in the thumbnail of this video. So, my thumbnail was what is it? It was a Secret Rare Pikachu from Rise and Rivals, and in that Pikachu's holding a very important card. He's holding the pre-release Raichu. Pre-release Raichu. Hopefully I'm not spoiling at this point. Rusty's video's been out for a long time. Rusty has been making Instagram posts and all this stuff. I hopefully I've given it enough time where I'm not spoiling anymore. I didn't want to spoil that video. Plus, on top of that, I made a community post where I highlighted Rusty's video and I said, go watch this video. This is one of the best videos ever. But with that said, is Rusty purchased the pre-release Raichu, which I've never been so happy for anybody. And I made a lot of videos talking about the pre-release Raichu, and I think a lot of people forget is in those videos, I made it very clear to everybody. I was always in the camp and the belief that the pre-release Raichu was a real thing. That I was always in the believer of that the pre-release Raichu was a real thing. And all the people said it wasn't, and I always said it was. And I even went out of my way to talk to Gary King Pokemon about it. When I talked to Gary, I made the joke with Gary. I said, Gary, the pre-release Raichu will not be a real card until the people that want to own that card say it's real. And then once they own it, then it'll become a real card. And I was one of the people that said that literally for as long as I can remember. I always said that. So, and in fact, the one that Rusty bought, which was the lower grade of the two, the 5.5, that is the one that I knew the backstory of. You know, all the Poke Beach things and how Dave Person purchased that card, the person he purchased it from, and then not only the person he purchased it from, if you're a long-time watcher of this channel, you know who Joe Echo-Based Collectibles is. And Joe Echo-Based Collectibles had been on my lives multiple times. And on every single live that Joe Echo-Based Collectibles was ever on my channel, we talked about the pre-release Raichu. And not only did we talk about it, is that Mike Boozer guy, Joe was super into the Pokemon competitive scene, like early 2000s. So, like all like into the Nintendo timeline, but mainly even Joe went to like the WotC Player Appreciation Tournament. So the WotC Player Appreciation Tournament was like the last event that they did right before Nintendo took over, because the Player Appreciation Tournament took place in, I think, so Skyridge came out May of 2003, and the Player Appreciation Tournament for Wizard of the Coast came out like April or early May. So right before, or no, sorry, it would have been right after Skyridge. So Skyridge came out middle of May. So Player Appreciation Tournament was like end of May, early June 2003. And in that video, Joe Echo-Based Collectibles talks about prize support for that tournament. Joe got 10th place. And for 10th place prize support for that tournament in late May, early June of 2003, 10th place, Joe got 10, yes, you heard that number correct, 10 booster boxes of Skyridge. That was his prize support. 10 booster boxes for 10th place. He said the person that, oh, and he also got like an entire big box of like all, like a bunch of Black Star promos. Not all 53, there was a couple that were missing, but like a big, like long box of a bunch of the different Black Star promos. But he talks about the person that got first place in that Player Appreciation Tournament. They wheeled out a pallet worth of product. Yes, a pallet. A pallet is, 600 booster boxes. So first place got like 600 booster boxes, full uncut sheets, got crazy stuff, because at that point, Wizard of the Coast knew that they were losing their rights to Pokemon, so they were just more or less blowing out their warehouse, or shouldn't call it warehouse, but like their storage room. I think people referred to it as like the company store and stuff, and then all the stuff that was in the company store more or less just got pushed out for prize support. So, but the reason I talk about that, I talk about Joe, I talk about all the tournaments, and Joe also placed, I believe, top 16 at one of the worlds, maybe 2004 Worlds, I think he placed, or top 10, I forget what he placed, but he placed pretty high at Worlds. But anyways, one of the things Joe talked about on my lives is seeing Mike Boozer's like personal binder, and then that pre-release Raichu was in there. So Joe always swore that that thing was real, and not just talking to Joe, I always believed it was real. The only thing I ever got mad about the pre-release Raichu was just the fact that I felt that CGC had the obligation to not like neglect any of the contradictory information we had of that promo. And the contradictory information we had was actually provided by Rusty, the guy who actually now is the proud owner of that card. And to be honest with you, if there is one like ultimate card in the hobby that I would still one day like to own, it would be that pre-release Raichu. Sadly, the dollar amount that would be required to get that card from Rusty's hands would, it's not a, I would have to sell my house, put it that way, to get that dollar amount, like liquid capital. So that's, listen, I enjoy being married. I enjoy not being divorced and my wife kicking me out on my butt. So that will probably never happen. But like, that would be my, dream card. And the only thing I didn't like was that CGC ignored the contradictory information for the story they have. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say Mike Bouger wasn't involved in WotC. He was. He worked at Wizard of the Coast. He told one story. The thing is Rusty, he had communications with a production manager at Wizard of the Coast too that talked about like that all those cards, no, they weren't, because some people know them as the pre-release Clefable, and then the Raichu right next to it, and then the rest of the cards were like the Hitmonchan, and then all the rest of the theme deck. So like Hitmonchan, the Ninetales, the Mewtwo, and then what theme deck am I? Gyarados. So all the base set starters for the theme decks are come off of a sheet, but then there was also like the Clefable where the pre-release came from potentially, and then the Raichu, and so that's where people said it. But then the production manager said, no, actually, that pre-release Raichu came off of one solid sheet. So if it was one solid sheet, had 99 cards on it, and in the email, the production manager said a lot of those cards were destroyed, and only a very few of those pre-release Raichus made it out as just like, handing them out to people. That was it. Now, both stories at the end of the day could in fact be real, and because of the people they're coming from, Mike Bouger, who worked at WotC, from a former production manager that worked at Wizard of the Coast, like, while both stories contradict each other, they might in fact both be true. You might have had some of those Raichus got cut off of those pre-release deck sheets, got stamped, and then you might have had some that were actually from one single sheet that sheet got cut up. They got the pre-release stamp. They destroyed most of that sheet, and there was only a couple. But like, and the crazy thing is to say that one story contradicts the other, it doesn't like change, in my opinion, or I think in anybody's opinion, changes the validation of that card. Like, that card is the pre-release Raichu. I told you, I've always been in the camp of that is a real card. That is one of the most sought after Holy Grail cards in the entire hobby, and I still to this day do believe that. The only thing that bothered me was that CGC like left out this really, really important detail, and I couldn't understand, I couldn't wrap my brain around why leave out the contradictory information, because it doesn't like change anything in my opinion. They could just have used the word like, hey, this is the person, we went with this story, we believe this story, but just, hey, FYI, this story exists. We were not able to like, validate it or anything, but we were able to do all the things that they talked about. It is a real card stock. They looked at the XRF microscope or whatever they use, and they looked at like the pre-release stamp, and they compared it to known examples of the pre-release Raichu, and they were able to like in their educational guess say that yes, that card was in fact stamped at Wizard of the Coast. It was potentially stamped at the right time with the backstory and all this, and that's fine. And I feel like if they did that, I wouldn't have had I wouldn't have had a leg to stand on. I would have been like, finally, that pre-release Raichu is graded. But that was my thing, because it went back for me as CGC as a company. And that's what it always went back to, because I already got biases towards CGC, but it went back to the way I feel like a shady business would purposely leave out information on that card, because now the sad part of this story is when people go back and they want to learn about the pre-release Raichu, they're now going to go back and read the CGC article. And the CGC article is now in this point, and I care so much about the history of this hobby. And I think that history is not just something that should be saved, but history is something that should be protected too. And to just leave out this huge part of history, even if it's a contradictory story, I just feel like it was such an injustice for the hobby as a whole, because now anyone that doesn't know the story, they're only going to ever know the CGC story, because they're going to do a simple Google search of pre-release Raichu, and they're going to see the press release that CGC did, and they just won't have all the information. Now, does that matter? Should that matter to anybody? A lot of people out there are going to say that's stupid, it doesn't matter. But to a lot of people out there, the history of this hobby is as important. And when you get deep enough down the rabbit hole, people care about the history. They care about the releases. They care about like all that information. Now, are they going to have in the CGC article talking about Joe Echo-based collectibles being at different world events and Mike Bouger being there and having Mike with his binder out and then open it out and him telling Joe the story? Like, no, none of that stuff is going to be there. But, like, the documented stuff from Mike Bouger and the documented stuff from a former Wizard of the Coast production manager, we're not just talking about, like, production line person. We're talking about production manager, somebody who was very, very into the know of how these cards were made, like, has a huge contradictory story. That was, so, like, the drama even there, like, this is a problem where you're going to lose most people. At the end of the day, does it matter? And for most people, it doesn't matter. But for a small group of people, it probably matters. Or at least it's important that they know. But with that said, my God, I have never been so happy that Rusty got that card, because I still believe that is a real card, and I'm happy he owns it, and I'm happy, in fact, he owns the Mike Boucher copy, because the other copy that was magically found in, like, whatever, somebody's binder, and they used to work at Wizard, now they work at Nintendo, and somebody realized the card, and then they're like, oh, I got this pre-release Raichu, and then they sold it to Dave Persons. Like, while that card is a higher grade, to be honest with you, like, I don't look at that card as the pre-release Raichu. The one I look at as the pre-release Raichu, like the pinnacle of this hobby, the one that all this, you got to keep in mind, when you get down into the niches of the niches, the pre-release Raichu conversation is not a new conversation. In fact, you can make the argument it's one of the most debated things in the history of this hobby. Just like the lore that is in that card, like, it is in that 5.5. So I'm happy that is the one he owns. And if I had the choice of the two, which I never will because I'll never be able to afford them, but in a hypothetical magical world, I have the money, I could have picked between the two, I would have picked the 5.5, because the 5.5, in my opinion, that is the real pre-release Raichu. So I'm happy Rusty got it. And, hold on one second. So one of my fears with that card, that pre-release Raichu, was, my fear was that because it was such a popular card, and, it was going to be a high dollar amount card, my big fear was that it was going to leave the hobby. And by leave the hobby, I mean, I thought it was going to go to, like, one of those Mickey Mantle PSA 10, collectors. So outside of Pokemon, into sports. And that is something that's happening right now. Like, there's not a lot of PSA 10 first edition Charizards. It's like 122 PSA 10s in the total population. I personally can name a lot of the 10s that are out there. I know the people that own them, but I also can sadly name a bunch of those Charizard PSA 10 first edition cards that are in sports cards people's, like, collection. And when I say I can name them, I can't actually name the people that own them. I just know of, like, I know what the guy looks like because I've seen him on videos showing his collection, and they own some of, like, the holy grails of the hobby, because sometimes that's what those sports cards collectors do. They'll just latch on to, like, whatever is the first, because that's really important in sports. Like, for sports, it's rookie cards. But in Pokemon, like, the first, a lot of people say, like, first edition base and stuff. But then, we had all what happened with, like, the blue back Charizards and stuff, and you got the blue, the green, the red, and then all those stupid crazy high sales. But that was all sports card guys, because they wanted the quote unquote first ever Charizard. And even though the PSA label says 95, it's reality, not really the first printing. But, like, that's the scary thing that happens, is the sports people think it's the first, so they end up putting out to, like, a $400,000 bid, and then it ends up not being worth anything. I think that card's like $30,000 now for the Top Sun Charizard. So it makes you think, though, like, what happens if a sports card guy gets his hands on the pre-release Raichu? And then in my opinion, it's just like a sad day for the hobby. But for Rusty to get it, I would say if you had to make a poll right now, and anybody who's in the know and even knows a little bit about Pokemon, if you could say, who's the one collector in the entire world you want to own this card, assuming that it's not you, that you can't afford this card, who would you, who's an ambassador to this hobby? Who do you want to own this card above all others? Everyone's going to say Rusty. So the fact that Rusty was the one to acquire that card that was actually a very, very bright point in this hobby. And I'm so happy Rusty acquired that card. Now, I don't know what Rusty's plans are with that card, but you know, Rusty's always going to understand like the importance of that card. He's never going to take that card for granted either. Like, he did his top 10 most expensive card video, and I know he saved that as honorable mention, but I don't really know. Like, we could start to do the speculation of where a card like that might wind up, like at auction and stuff, but that could be. I mean, if an Illustrator Pikachu and a PSA 9 could sell for $475. So, and I don't care what I don't care what Ken Golden tells you about private sales of Illustrator Pikachu's and for $2 million in a PSA 9. I don't know. Talk about snake oil salesman, fucking Ken Golden, man. That's a whole drama thing too, and I guess we'll touch it base on a little bit. It's just like all the most recent sales of Illustrator Pikachu's in a PSA 9, and then magically, right before Golden Auctions was about to sell an Illustrator Pikachu, they had one that literally had a certain number, one earlier than the one. So like somebody graded two Illustrator Pikachus, both of them hit 9s, and then one of the two magically sold in a private sale for $2 million, and then obviously the next one sold for $475,000. But with that said, assuming you think that $2 million sale is absolute bullshit, because I think everyone will agree that is absolute bullshit sale. I don't think it ever happened, and I'll go to my grave thinking that. But assuming you put a price tag of $475,000 on the Illustrator Pikachu, like, in my personal opinion, I value the pre-release Raichu greater than an Illustrator Pikachu. And I think a lot of people out there may have that sentiment, and then might be a lot of people out there who don't have that sentiment. But then at the same time, there's probably a lot of people that value that Illustrator at greater than $475, and probably a lot of people that value that card at way less. So it's interesting though. Like, we got some crazy stuff happening recently. All right. So real quick. So that's it. If you guys don't know, every Thursday night at 9:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I'm gonna go live. So my goal is still 4 videos a week. Now, those 4 videos a week could be shorts, so you might see like 2 shorts this week. Sorry, to try to still get me to that 4 videos. But I might go live tomorrow night, might go live Saturday night, but I'm gonna go into the chat, and because I think I gotta go live tomorrow because I want to talk about the temporal force. I think that's the name. Oh god, I hope I'm not saying the wrong name for this set. Temporal force. Yeah, temporal force is Pokemon, which is honestly one of the coolest names for a set we've seen. There's been some cool names, and actually, if you think about it, there's a lot of... I'm not going to start doing the whole game of name every single Pokemon set, but there's a couple like sets that always stick out in my head that are like sets that I like the name. Like, I always liked the name like Dragons Exalted. I always thought Dragons Exalted was a cool name, but even Battle Styles I thought was a cool name, especially having like the Urshifu because it was a Rapid Strike, Single Strike. I always liked that play. Even though people don't like Battle Styles, I always thought Battle Styles was such a cool name. And even like, yeah, there's just so many cool names. Like, I'm not gonna do them all, but Celestial Storm, like, what a cool name. But Temporal Forces, man, Temporal Forces is a freaking awesome name. And then it's one of those. If you guys don't know, Pokemon Center has pre-orders up. They're still up right now. So if you didn't pre-order your Temporal Forces Pokemon Center ETBs, it's not too late. They're still up. I don't think that these are going to sell out as fast. And the problem with these Temporal Forces ETBs, and one of the things that I hate, is that there's the 2 different artworks. So because there's the 2 different artworks, it always is, I don't know. It's painful. But there's like the Flutter Mane, and then there's like a T-Tar. It's not a... It's a Iron Thornus, I think is his name or something. Well, it is his name, actually, I should say. I'm looking at it right now. But, yeah, I don't know. I'm excited about this set. I haven't really seen any of the cards in it. I've just seen, like, some of the promotional materials. I'm looking at some of the 3-pack blisters and stuff. The 3-pack blisters, there's, like, I guess that's, like, I don't know. I could take them or leave them, but I'm excited about Temple Forces. I think it's going to be hopefully a solid set, because if you think about like how Pokemon usually goes, this is usually the set that Pokemon introduces some sort of like cool new things. I'll give you an example. So like at the same timeline for Sword and Shield, this set would be like Battle Styles. But what did Battle Styles introduce? Battle Styles introduce alternative arts. Now you can make the argument that the alternative arts already existed in those later Sun and Moon sets, and like, sure, I'll give you that. But like, I think how a lot of modern collectors talk about alternative arts battle styles with the Sleepy Tea and like those, that was like the real first ever uh what is it, the Urshifu? Did the Urshifu? Yeah, it was the Urshifu had the other alternative art. People would say battle style was the first to really introduce it. So that is this set. Like that, this is the fifth main expansion. Now, you know, we'll see. We'll see if they introduce some cool stuff. And then when you think about what happened after Battle Styles, and you go, Battle Styles, Chill and Rain, Evolving Skies, Fusion Strike, Brilliant Stars, like all those sets just compounded on each other and just got better and better till you got to the one I said last, you know, Brilliant Stars, which reintroduced again character rare. So, all those sets like the Battle Styles and Chill and Rain. What did Chill and Rain have? Chill and Rain is awesome set. I know a lot of people shit on Chill and Rain, but when you look at the actual set list of that card, now there's a reason why they call it Chill and Pain. The reason why I call it Chill and Pain too, like to pull the actual hits in that set, damn near impossible. And this is back to the time of the green and black code cards when you weren't gonna pull a character rare card. It was just you pull the hit or you pull just a non-hollow rare. So Chill and Rain was tough. Evolving Skies again. Look at Evolving Skies. Evolving Skies is one of the most fan favorite, most stacked, most expensive sets, but when it comes to it, there's a reason they call it Evolving Cries, because to actually pull the card you want, again, is damn near impossible. Like, it is tough. Evolving Skies, you will pull the Duraludon. You will pull the, what is it, the Flygon, and what else is in there? I think it's the Flygon. But like, if you don't pull the hit, you don't pull nothing in Evolving Skies. Like, so, but yeah, we're running into that timeline, so I'll be interested to see how all this works out. So Jared said, we covering the felt hat promo today? We are not covering the felt hat promo today. I think I beat that horse to death too. Katie, good to see you. Oh, Katie. It's all because of you, Katie. All the hate I've been taking with all these CGC lovers, all because of you, Katie. If Katie didn't say on that one live, and I think this is the thing too, is people are going to think that that was like a planned thing, where like I was already planning out, I had the heat gun next to me. I talked to Katie. I was like, Katie, do me a favor, mention this. Let's work up this like whole CGC slab reopening thing. And it wasn't. It was literally as organic as what you saw happen on that live is how that really played out. So, Katie, you brought a lot of hate to me, but that's okay. We're gonna fight through it, Katie. But it's just funny how much hate I got for that. And the people who love CGC they love CGC. Like, I'm talking just really, really, like, I think I love PSA, but I don't think I love PSA as much as some people love CGC. Now, I might hate CGC as much as some people love CGC. That might actually be a possibility. But Tennis Wolf said, spoiler, Matt Quinn special guest. When? Yeah. Let's see. Busy Bee said, Thirsty Thursday and some PK rants. Yes, I appreciate that. Maybe I should do that, is start bringing in Thursdays. I see I can't, because I still got work on Friday, so I can't turn into like a Thirsty Thursday. Let's see. Jade Rabbit said, drama. Yeah. Mick Nick said, Rise and Rival Pikachu is a banger. Yeah, I think I actually have one over. So I've talked about this binder before. I think I have one of those. Rise and maybe. Yeah. It is. This, again, if you guys don't know, this is just like my personal binder. But it is a absolutely Look at that. For a secret rare of the set is just, it's a reimagined artwork. So if you look, I'll kind of do a compare and contrast. So if you look, so this is, so they're both done by Arita, but you can see, so like the artwork is just reimagined. So if you see, hold on, let me try get it where you can really see. So it's the same artwork for both cards, but it's just reimagined. And I love the way that Pokemon does that sometimes. And it is a very, very, very cool thing. And then if you look here, you can always tell the binder page when you have like, and then even they did it in Celebrations. So like they turned it into just like a full art. And no, I'm not worried if I like damage these cards. These are all PC, which is important. And then this is not the same, but like the Jungle Pikachu is more like I don't know how you would explain it. More just, I feel like more the or like, I don't know, television style of it. Let me just put these back in. I don't even know why I have them sleeved, but all right. Yeah, one day we could go through that whole binder. It's a cool binder actually. It's got some cool stuff. It's got some cool Raichu pages. Yeah. Anyways, all right. Back to where we were. So, Girls Like My Hair said, what do you think about the PSA 10 Victory Medal cards and PSA 10 Stitch cards? So I'm not really like super familiar with the Stitch cards, but Victory Medals are interesting cards. Like I've looked at them. They were going cheap for a while on, God, was it the Z&G most recent auction? No, it was probably like 2 or 3 weeks ago. I want to say Z&G had a bunch of the Victory Medals I was looking at, and they were going pretty cheap. So I like them. I think it takes a different type of collector. You got to kind of be a little bit more down the rabbit hole to like them. But Son of a Mewtwo said, Drew, #1 mod in the game. PK, say it louder for the CGC shills. Yeah. I got back to Son of a Mewtwo Super Chat again. Appreciate you, bud. Bearski again. Thanks for hopping on the channel, or the channel memberships. John Moore said, fuck the haters. Yeah, fuck them. I do like that, the emojis. If you guys are channel members, like one of them's a Pikachu with a gray felt hat, and then the Steelworker one. So the Steelworker one, if you're looking in the live chat, was my background that I had. Before I created this collection room, I had like my original background was just, I used to do all my videos in my living room on my couch, and then I have that background. So Jade Rabbit said CGC has some beautiful looking slabs. I personally like the blue labels more. I actually like the blue labels more too. I made a whole rant about how I didn't like the new labels. Everyone told me they did like the new labels. I don't know. I'm not a CGC collector, so I guess my opinion doesn't really matter in that sense. John Moore said, LL, 3.5 Weedle buy, yes. The old 3.5 base set unlimited Weedle. Like, I just love the fact that there exists somebody out there who had a 3.5 condition worthy Weedle and was like, I need to grade this because it's a new cert CGC slab. So, you know what? I don't think I might not have a Weedle close by. No, I don't have a Weedle close by, but I can't even imagine. I've graded a lot of cards, and there's very, very few cards I've ever graded that got 3.5s. And if I did get it, it was because like I was trying to get a low grade. But why somebody would grade that? But I don't know. But you know what? Who's the sucker in this situation? The guy that graded it or the guy that bought it? It's probably the guy that bought it. I'm that guy. I'm the new owner of a 3.5 base set Weedle because I'm trying to crack modern CGC slabs. Kevin Clare said, damn, PK gonna crack him. Lazard confirmed, yeah. Cheval says, PK never talks about the issues with MNT grading because there are none. Invest wisely. MNT. What? I can't. There's so many three-letter acronyms for grading card companies. ACE, so ACE, GMA, MNT, uh, CGC, PSA, BGS, obviously those. There's just so many. I can't even. Oh, you know what? What is it? Tree Frog? It's Tree Frog. I think Tree Frog Grading's a company. Is it TFG? Do they go by? I don't know. There's too many grading card companies. Uh, again, PTCG Vlogs. Thanks again, man, for joining as a channel supporter. Cheval says, PK trying to bash CGC, influence the market so he can buy CGC slabs cheap. I see clearly now. Yes. No, listen, no. I don't mean I'm bashing the market. I'm gonna let you guys know. There are some CGC slabs right now that are so cheap. Now, my whole thing with CGC is if you truly, truly, truly love CGC and you just want it as part of your personal collection, do it. But the people, how much money some people are losing on CGC slabs is wild. And this is one of the things I always try never to do. I never like to talk about CGC and talk about money because all I ever want to do is talk about CGC as the company and leave the money out of it. I always try to go out of my way and do that, if you guys don't know. But I will say this. There are some good buying opportunities out there for some CGC slabs. Now, these modern like 9s, modern 10s, I don't think they're good buys because they changed their grading scales, and in fact, there's some weak CGC 10s. Shout out again. We talked about it earlier in today's videos. We talked about that Illustrator Pikachu that hit a 10. These modern CGC grades are pretty weak. These like older certs, I just recently, and actually I did it by accident. You could go look at my Pokéknowledge eBay account. I only use that as a buying account. I never use it as I only use that as a selling account. I never use it as a buying account, and I accidentally bought one card on my Pokéknowledge eBay account, and I always try to do all my buys on another one, but I was logged in on my phone. I didn't even realize I was logged in on it, and I ended up putting a bid and bought something, but I bought a Vivid Voltage, like hyper rare Pikachu in a CGC 8 for $80, I think it was. It has subgrades. The corners are a 10. I'm going to crack that 8 and submit it to PSA. And I looked at it. It's like a surface issue kept it down, but it wasn't a dent. It was just old, and it's a 3.6 cert. Not a 3. I like cracking 3.7s and 3.8s. This baby was a 3.6 cert, meaning when Vivid Voltage was released in November, it got like instantly graded, and somebody like express graded it, so they got destroyed on this CGC grade. So I'm gonna crack that baby. I just got it from my PO box today, but I'm gonna crack that baby and send it to PSA, and that baby's gonna come back at 10 because those are the CGC plays you want, like those real old CGC certs that were really, really poorly graded, or undergraded, I should say. So yeah, Chevals, you're not wrong when you say that you should be buying some older CGC certs. It goes back to what everyone should be doing anyways. Buy the card, not the grade. But some of these real old CGC certs, you could buy the grade because that grade's going to be an 8 or 8.5 and probably be a near mint card. So, I mean, I've had great luck personally cracking old CGC slabs and submitting them to PSA. I stay away from the modern stuff because I just think the grading scales are way too flippy floppy nowadays. Let's see. Let's see. Jade says 4s and 5s have bends and creases. Yeah, sometimes. I've seen some really strong 4s though. I've been the non-proud owner of some really, really clean PSA 4s. In fact, I keep it. Oh wait, no. Can I get rid of it? Oh, I used to keep my. Oh, I don't have it in front of me anymore. I used to keep a CGC 4, like a Sleepy Pika close by. I don't know. This is what happens is sometimes like I move stuff around and then I lose stuff. I know where a lot of stuff is, but sometimes I just lose it. But I had a real clean. Oh, you know what? I think I put it in part of my personal collection box. Nah, oh well. But I have like a real clean 4 that hurt. Um, let's see. I see Pokesun TCG in the chat. I saw Rattle highlighted you in his video today. Uh, let's see. So we got Pole Father. Good to see you, bud. Namp90 says, none of these grading companies will improve if people excusing them just because another company does it too. Yeah, that's just the thing I hate. It's like, I'm going to talk about CGC, and then everybody's going to say, but PSA. Just don't do the but PSA. Just do your best. I challenge everybody out there. Just try. If you're going to talk about CGC, just talk about CGC. If you're going to talk about PSA, just talk about PSA. If you're going to talk about Beckett, just talk about Beckett. Because I feel like it hurts that argument a little bit where it's just always the CGC did this, but PSA's done this in the past, and it's just like, come on, let's try not to sidetrack every single conversation if we don't have to. Yeah, PokeKid said PSA doesn't even have QA check 2 anymore. It's just QA checks. Yeah, room for more error. Yeah. Zardlurker92 said, what is the drama, PK? What isn't the drama? This is Pokemon, Zardlurker92. There's nothing but drama in this hobby. So, Get Your Ball says, sometimes drama is entertaining, but when it becomes all-encompassing or all we talk about, it becomes mundane. I also agree with that statement very well. That's why I just told you earlier, I'm going to try not to talk about CGC for the next couple of videos. I know a lot of people are going to want that. Unless CGC does something, which I wouldn't put it past them, does something really stupid again, I'm going to try not to talk about CGC in, like, my next couple of videos. So if you got your CGC questions, get them out now. So, Father Shuckle said, wish Joe did more. He's talking about Joe Echo-based collectibles. I wish he did more content, too. I reached out to Joe probably 3 or 4 months ago, asked him if he wanted to hop on the channel. He said he's just taking a break from content for a while. Cheval says Skyridge was seen as a mid-set back then. Then no. Question mark? So when I asked Joe, because I wasn't around for Skyridge, so I asked Joe, who was in Skyridge, I said, Joe, was Skyridge a sought-after set? And he said no, because for playability aspect, when Nintendo took over, because you got to keep in mind, Nintendo took over, you got so right after Skyridge, you got Ruby Sapphire came out, Sandstorm, EX Dragon, so those were the sets that everyone thought were going to be like competitively viable, and people thought, oh, now that Nintendo's printed all this WotC stuff, none of this stuff is going to be eligible for playability anymore. So people were like stayed away from Skyridge because they thought it wasn't going to be playable. Ended up being playable, but originally, like, that was the thought process. And then plus, when you think about like just changes in the actual playability, what did Skyridge have? Like, Skyridge had crystal cards in it, but what did Nintendo bring in and then really ran with it? I mean, we got it now again. We got EX cards, but like when you think back and you think about Ruby Sapphire and you think about like the Chansey or the Lapras or the Mewtwo, like those beautiful, Ruby Sapphire, the Mewtwo, everyone thinks about the Mewtwo when you think about Ruby Sapphire, but the EX, when you talk about the playability, when all the EX cards were introduced, it really just, in a way, instantly forced out all these WotC cards anyway. So even though the WotC cards were still technically tournament legal, nobody wanted them because EX, that's where it was at. So when people started to pass on Skyridge, like, that was one of the things. And I don't think it was so much like the actual quality of the cards or like the design of the cards, and it wasn't a mid set, because if you look at Skyridge, you can look at from H1 all the way to H32, those are the hollows, it's the bangers all the way through. And when you look at the crystal cards, like crystals, I mean, people are give or take with like the Golem, but like when you think about Ho-Ho is a huge fan favorite Pokemon. Obviously the Charizard, the Celebi, Crobat, take it or leave it, but I mean, you still got 3 banger crystals in there, especially with, the Ho-Ho, the Celebi, and the Charizard. And then, the Crobat and the Golem, it's take them or leave it. And then when you go back and you think about Aquapolis and you think about crystals, you got the Lugia, but then there's like the Nidoking and the Kingdra. It's like, I don't know, like, do people care about Nidoking? It's like, probably not. Do people care about Kingdra? Probably not. So the crystals kind of just faded away. And I don't think they were just mid. It's just the new hot stuff came out. But then, when you talk about those late WotC sets and you talk about like low print runs and stuff, like that's when everything started to compound in the future for sets like that. So, the Pole Father said, PK, did the wife support the Tiffany jewelry purchase? I ended up missing the Tiffany jewelry purchase. Thank God I missed them. Because those pendants were even smaller than I thought they were going to be. John Moore said, PK, will you pan the camera so we can see your storage? I've panned the camera on the Rattle Discord before. You guys don't want to see that. You don't want me to pan the camera. There's a reason why. People are always like, PK, you live in 2024. Why can't you do a full crop? Because I'm telling you, once that screen separates and goes past this, it's like, it's pretty ugly. I'm not going to lie. Like, it looks like a dungeon. A dungeon's a good way to put it. That's why we got some bright lights. This is a basement. It's a dungeon, and there's a lot of just boxes. I'd say it kind of looks a little, yeah, it's bad. It's kind of like when CTR tries to does a collection tour, It's like, here's my collection tour, boxes. So one of the things I do enjoy about this is I do appreciate this because I actually like view some of this stuff. I mean, I'm looking to my left and my right, and I'm just like, yeah. Plus, I'd probably end up doxing myself if I move the camera, but. Let's see. John Moore said, Rusty is a freaking goat in this hobby and he deserves everything. Yes, I agree with that statement 100%. Let's see. So, Uncle said, PK's back at it. Hey, bro, I'm proud of what you've been able to create with this channel. It's really becoming something special. I appreciate that, man. Just going to keep doing what I like doing. What I like doing is talking about Pokemon, and later this month, we're going to have the 2/3 of the podcast are going to come back with me and Rattle, and then maybe we'll have a rotating guest. I don't know about the first week. I got to talk to Rattle about it more. Just, is the first week going to just be me and him? Because there's so many things I want to talk to Rattle about, because, I mean, I've seen Rattle recently. I saw him down at the Charlotte Collecticon. I've seen him on multiple, happy hour chats, but I haven't had that one-on-one, like, podcast style, and man, think since the last time Rattle's been on this channel, he's done the whole entire Whatnot Blake Martinez stuff that's gone down. All his other like recent videos where he's just, all the Sean Basket stuff and the Omega mystery boxes, and like there's just been so much that has happened recently that I haven't really been able to like pick Rattle's brain about. So I have missed those conversations, so it'll be very nice to be able to like start that back up. And one of the things I want to do is I want to ask Rattle about like the whole Whatnot thing, because I think a lot of people are maybe downplaying like the whole Whatnot thing, but the simple facts of it was Blake Martinez was their poster child. Like, he was in all their advertising. Rattle helped to expose him, showed that these Blake Martinez breakers were doing like the Guess the Energy games, were scamming people out of tens of thousands to potentially hundreds of thousands to millions. I don't know. This is all my opinion, but potentially like huge numbers they were scamming people out of, and Rattle exposed that. And Whatnot doesn't just sell Pokemon. Whatnot is I heard rumors that Whatnot was seeded with like $1 billion. Yes, seeded, meaning their seed capital was like $1 billion. Was it $1 billion or 500 million? That's a big number to get off, but maybe we'll just go with 500 million. But Whatnot was seeded with like 500 million in just seed money. 500 million is a lot of money. And the valuation of Whatnot at its peak was probably in the billions of dollars. That was $1 billion company. And all the Rattle like investigations and all the news outlets and everything that ran with the Blake Martinez scam stuff, like obviously Whatnot is not a publicly traded company. It's a privately owned company, but the valuation of that company must have went down in the hundreds of millions of dollars. That is a wild thing to think about. And that was because of Rattle. Rattle like single-handedly devalued the company $100 million because, and the reason why I say that is because if Whatnot decided like, okay, we're going to have an IPO, we're going to go public, any new investor that's going to invest in Whatnot who's not familiar with it, before they invest their money, hopefully, they're probably going to do one simple Google search of Whatnot and just see any news articles. And as Whatnot as a company, if you were to release an IPO, if you were to do a public stock offering, the last thing you would want is every single Google search to come up with how is just the biggest scam platform in the entire world. And like all those news, I mean, we're talking USA Today and stuff, like the real super mainstream news articles cited the Blake Martinez stuff and the Whatnot stuff. So if you're an average retail stock investor, know nothing about trading cards, know nothing about Whatnot, and you go type into Google Whatnot and you get a USA Today article talking about how one of the Whatnot streamers, their biggest streamer, made $11 million on the platform and ended up finding out he was scamming, like, probably not going to make you want to buy that company. If you don't want to buy that company, and everyone doesn't want to buy that company, that devaluation is going to be in the hundreds of millions of dollars if it's valued in the billions. It's crazy. I never got to talk to Rattle about that. I wish I got to talk to him about it. I got to talk to Blasty about it, but Blasty was like, nah, whatever. Either way, I want to talk to Rattle about that. I want to talk to him about a lot of stuff, man. PokeKid said PK loves SGC graded, yeah. Let's see. Tom B said CGC collectors are just lemmings. Same kind of people that buy an Android because iPhone is popular, yeah. I would say maybe that's a hot take, but let's see. Cheval says MNT Grading is Canadian company. Their slab is basically the same as BGS. They're somewhat respected. Their black label sells close to PSA 10 prices sometimes. Oh, love that comment. Their black label sells close to PSA 10 sometimes. E4 Relk says, "Hey PK, when you gonna hook me up with that with a signed Raichu? I love one of for my background for the stream. I can hook you up with that, no problem." So PokeSol says, "Has your view on the Chinese market changed?" No, it has not. I'm still just chugging away at that Chinese market. So, has my view changed? No, because of cards like that. So, no. And maybe it hasn't gone up as much as it has, but the profit margins are just there. I mean, $2.99 card, $15 to grade it, get majority tens. If you're good at pre-grading. Oh, speaking of pre-grading, so pretty soon my Pokemon TCG Classic Collection play is finally coming to an end. So if you don't know, I originally graded 13 cards from the TCG Classic Collection. Got lucky, I did them all at the Value Plus, so the $40 grade, and graded those 13. Both my Charizards hit 10, so I got super lucky. Made a bunch of money selling those, but then I also sent 23 cards away at bulk, and 19 of the 23 hit 10, so I had a decent pre-grade there. One of them doesn't really count because it was the Blastoise that I knew wasn't going to hit a 10, was going to hit a 9. That hit a 9, so really, in reality, it was more like 19 of 22 cards that I pre-graded hit 10s, and I'm going to end up cleaning up on the Pokemon TCG Classic. So I'm going to, after all these cards are sold, I'm going to actually maybe not do a spreadsheet video, but I'm going to talk about the numbers because I made all those sales public, and it was only 2 of them, but I'm going to end up walking away with like a nice, healthy dollar amount on a product that a lot of people after it was released didn't like, but it is going to be a huge moneymaker at the end of the day for me. So that's pretty cool. Let's see. Let's see. Namp90 says, "My brother kept collecting after I stopped, and I was a kid when he told me the other day that he hated the E-Series sets, and that was why he stopped." Oh, boy. I think the e-reader sets would have been cool if you had, it's in the name of the set, right? Or type of card, not the set, but type of cards, e-reader. If you had the actual Pokemon e-reader, meaning you plugged it into your Game Boy, you take the e-reader card, you swipe it, damage the card, who cares, you're a little kid, but that would be a cool little thing. Shout out, I think I only know one person, I think that, or probably CTR has one, but, I think Rattle has. Okay, I know a couple people, but shout out the old card shop. I think he has a sealed Game Boy e-reader. it's a cool little thing to have. I would like to see him actually try to use it to swipe some. I mean, obviously you're gonna damage it. You just find like one light play card and see if you could actually swipe the e-reader card. See if it actually works. So it's a novel little gimmick. I just no one knew Pokemon was gonna do what it did. Um, let's see. Uh, Uncle said, "Yeah, man, you're killing it. I love the podcast. Not gonna be the same without CTR. Yeah, yeah, it'll be fine though. Let's see. Cheval says CTR can't join because of his new cat. PK's allergic to cat. I am allergic to cats. I'm allergic to everything. You hear it in my voice now. I'm still sick. All right, made it to the bottom chat. Listen, guys, appreciate you. 100 people tuned in. I mean, watching real time. That's crazy. Appreciate every single one of you guys. Again, the membership tier. If you were at the $2.99 tier, it's gonna get canceled. I don't know. It takes I don't know. YouTube had to like review the membership cancellation, but when that takes effect, if you see your membership gets canceled, it's nothing personal. It's just I got rid of the $2.99 tier. I'm only gonna have the 99-cent tier. But yeah, guys, listen. Appreciate every single one of you. I do still want to talk about the Temporal Forces set, so that I just want to kind of talk about like modern market going forward. I know I touched base on a little bit on today's video, but there's still a lot of stuff I want to talk about for that, and I want to talk about like what I see Pokemon Center ETBs doing in the future too, because you know Paldean Fates sold out. I mean, they're still sold out right now. What's I'm kind of looking at PokemonCenter.com ETBs as being like an indicator of the market to see if, potential downturns that could happen. I think ETBs could be like one of the early signals. Now, we haven't seen it happen yet, but like just because we haven't seen it happen, it's like I'm just looking at different areas of the market that I could say, if the market did turn, what would be like signals, and I think that would be one of them. But again, I saw Mason earlier, but real quick, shout out to Mason. Mason had a great video. I need to talk about too is I know I'm going to parrot a lot of Mason stuff, and that's what I don't want to do. But Mason talked about a lot of the most recent Amazon sales, and one of the oh, and it's always the number one most sold Amazon product. It's just random bulk 50 card lot. So random 50 cards from Pokemon, and it's like $4.42 or something like that. But in the last month of December, there was 80,000 sales of just 50 card lots. So I'm not talking chases, just Sword and Shield, Scarlet and Violet bulk, 50 cards worth. 80,000 sales in the month of December, and Mason was just talking about all those sales. And I actually want to do a video, and to be honest with you, I'm probably not the best person to like break down the numbers, but I'm going to try my best to like at least give you a little bit of the numbers. But I want to break down like those 50 card lots, because 50 cards at let's just say you're paying a bulk fee of $2, paying a bulk fee of 2 cents. So 2 cents is actually higher. I'd say right now bulk is probably at a penny or penny and a half, depending on who you're selling your bulk to. But let's say you're a bulk buyer, so you're buying right now at 2 cents. So to buy 50 bulk cards, that costs you $1. They're selling them for over $4, and then yeah, you got to factor in what you're paying Amazon. You got to factor in shipping. But when you say you're moving 80,000 of these per month. And then I was trying to think of like, well, what would be the fastest way to count 50 cards? And I think a lot of people think of like the money counters. You go to the bank and you have like a stack of bills, and they just throw it in the money counter. You see it like all the drug dealers and stuff have them. And just like all the $100 bills like, and I'm just like, is there a product out there that exists like that, where if you just had like, you could just grab a big stack of cards and you just throw it in there, and then it counts 50 for you. And then you could just take those 50 cards, throw them in a little team bag or however they ship them, and then just, ship them that way. And then I was like, is that a thing? Is there a bank note counter that could just count 50 cards for you? And I was like, if that does exist, because in my head I was like, that would be what would take the longest amount of time. But if you're a bulk buyer, you're already buying the bulk. And then I was thinking, well, what if you bought energies too? Because out of those 50 bulk lots, what if you put 5 energies each lot, or 10, maybe 10 is way too high, but 5 energies each lot, you know, that's way less than bulk prices. So then you got energies in there. If you could do 50, you're count, because that's going to be the longest thing, is just to count out. If you had a stack of cards like this, and you just counted out 1, 2, 3. I'm sure you could count the 50 pretty fast, but if you could count the 50, I don't know. I really want to crunch the numbers on that, because that is a pretty wild thought. Oh, Mason said, I chill. Oh, okay. Oh, I guess Mason, you... Alright, I won't make that video, Mason. I'm going to leave that up for you. Alright, we need Mason to make that video to make bulk lots. But is that a thing? Mason, is there a card counter thing? Can I just put a stack of cards in a card counter and it's just like... Is that a thing? I don't know. Alright. As always, guys, I already said bye, and then I talk for another 10 minutes. Alright. I love you guys. Catch you on the next video.